for one reason or another. Very bad habits, okay? A, you're scared of math, or you think you're bad in math. I always say, if you have an IQ of 80, okay, I get it. But most people here have average or higher IQ. Otherwise, it would be very unlikely that you would be at a college. You don't have people that are bad in math. You have people who had bad math teachers. It's that simple. I had a horrible physics teacher. To this day, I never use a good language when I think about him. If I had a good physics teacher, I probably would have studied theoretical physics. I wouldn't have eaten it as well, but I would have been very happy. Years later, I learned about, and I can't do that math anymore, but at least I understand it. I learned about general relativity, quantum mechanics, understood their meanings. What does it mean? There's all sorts of issues with meaning of life, meaning of reality. Is there reality? But because of that guy, I never even wanted to think about physics until I get to graduate school and had friends who are doing PhD in physics. I'm also a smoker, and in those days almost everybody did. While you're smoking outside, you chat about stuff. That's how I started learning about stuff. But had I learned that in high school, I definitely would have studied theoretical physics. I would not have been a Sheldon, but maybe a Leonard. That's about it. All right? Okay, let's pause here. Let's get back here at 7:35. What's going on here? All right. Now let's do some problems. I added a little menu item on Blackboard. It's called Chapter Quizzes. As the quizzes are posted, they will appear there. I already posted Chapter 2 quiz. I'll post the homework sometime tomorrow morning. I'm going to basically do an example of that. Come on. All right, you're going to get them one at a time. The first question is worth nothing, but if you are doing it with a partner, I want you to write the name of an EKU ID number of that partner. That way I know that you're doing it with somebody. And please, if you're doing with a partner, try to use only one person's account per chapter, because this thing calculates the grades maximum of the attempts. If it's over 2 people, then I have to kind of do extra work for that. I don't mind doing it, but hey, if you like me, make me work a little bit less. And these quizzes start with 1 or 2, sometimes 4 fill in the blanks questions. There's a number of acceptable answers. I typically manually look at them later on. So if your answer, you misspelled it, it's otherwise acceptable, I give you the points. So if after you're done it says 0, but you think it's correct, just be patient. When I see that there's submitted, I go in and manually look at them. If you still believe after my manual grading that it's correct, shoot me an email. We'll bargain about it. We'll see. So let's see. Cash generated from firms' normal business activities is referred to as firms' operating income, operating cash, or something like that. You could also jump to questions from right there. In this case, let's see, something is equal to cash flow from assets plus something plus change in net working capital. I think this is operating income. Operating cash flow. I haven't directly talked about it, but you can read it in the book. Definition of operating cash flow and cash flow from assets. Okay, again, these are definitional. Is equal to net income, or actually plus, I'm just going to do it this way, net capital spending. All right. There are a good number of true-false questions. An income statement records expenses based on the recognition principle. It sounds correct, but it's not. You keep the revenues based on recognition principle. You keep the expenses based on what we call matching principle. Those are the expenses that are needed to generate that revenue. So this would be false. A decrease in net working capital for the period decreases the cash flow from assets. The definition of, let me copy this thing. Come on. Actually, I don't want this one. Let me call this problems. Cash flow from assets is equal to operating cash flow minus net capital spending minus change in net working capital. So given that, is that true or false, guys? CFFA is short for cash flow from assets. By the way, I always assume that you read the chapter before you came here. So I don't feel obligated to define things. If you read the chapter, you know the definitions. You guys are paying me too much money to read you the definitions. What do you guys think? If there's a decrease in net working capital, is that a positive change or negative change in net working capital? These are not complicated questions. Negative. So if change in net working capital negative, what happens to cash flow from assets?
Negative.
No, it's negative change in net working capital. Negative times negative, positive. So a decrease in net working capital means cash flow from assets is going to go up. So that's false. This decrease in you don't have to do this in the exams, but always think about why is that the answer. I may, if this was not a night class, I would have done that. Before COVID, I actually had exams. It was multiple choice or true false. You got half the points for giving me the right answer, the other half for explaining why that answer has to be right. If it's a numerical, obviously you go through the calculations. But something like this, basically have to write something like that. So I'm more interested in you knowing why things are correct than whether they are correct. Whether or not something is correct is information. Knowing why something is correct is called knowledge. I know in the age of Google and AI, that distinction may have been lost on you, but no sophisticated AI is going to change the fact that unless you know why things work, you don't know anything. I mean, you can reach information, but that doesn't mean you know anything. You have no understanding. Oh, one of the more popular answers in things like these, because you said so. Now, that is a true statement, but as I say, completely useless true statement. So, A, I could have been wrong. I'm not God, contrary to popular opinion. You know, I'm not talking about Zeus or anything, maybe Hades. And I need to know why that is correct. What's the logic behind it? What's the mechanism? You guys need to learn how to think. You can get the A by just knowing the information. That's why when I worked in the industry, I was very unlikely to hire 4.0 students. Because 4.0 students are very good at getting the A. But, I mean, I should not generalize it. They're typically not very good in anything else. You know, you get a lot of students in quant areas from China. My son just took GRE. He's going to do a PhD in machine learning and biocomputation and stuff.